Hey everyone, and welcome to ZEN and TECH, our weekly podcast focused on centering your inner geek and using technology to help deal with the stresses of your connected life. I'm Rene, and your host for the show is Georgia. Before we begin, I just want to remind you that while Georgia is a therapist, she's not your therapist. Everything said or implied on this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and shouldn't be taken in any way as a replacement for personal, professional care. Georgia, how are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling happy and wonderful today.
It's the meds. It's the Flintstone vitamins. They're kicking in.
That they are.
Or maybe it's just a new year. New years are always kind of cleansing. It makes you feel like it's a fresh start.
Yeah, well, this is not a great time of year for people often. This is actually could be a very difficult time of year. So that's what this show's all about.
Yeah, it's almost like this time of year amplifies everything. If you're feeling good, it feels great. And if you're not feeling good, it feels a little bit worse than otherwise. I'm not quite sure why that is.
Well, the holidays can bring up some difficult times.
Well, we did a couple podcasts. We did a podcast on how to survive your family, which believe me, is a lot of stress for a lot of people over the holidays, and how to deal with the travels and travails of the holidays. I think both of those were really, really useful.
Yeah, well, I have to say I used a lot of this stuff, so it works out. It's all good.
Yeah, so now you're moving into the new year, and you had the thing I like about the show, and I've mentioned it before, is that you took your time. You put all the building blocks. You had the episodes on breathing, on sleeping, on exercise, on nutrition, on goal setting. These aren't news shows. They don't expire. You can go back and listen to them again and again. And I know a lot of people actually write in and tell us that they do. But now that you've put that foundation in place, you said you wanted to start tackling more difficult subjects.
Right. And today, that's what we're doing. Today, we're going to talk about depression.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry if that kind
Depression
of
depresses me.
Sad. Yeah. But it's something that's really important. One is that it affects a lot of people. And if you know a little bit more about it, you can help someone that might be going through it.
So before we start,
just acknowledge it. So
can we just define, because people use I'm depressed. There's different meanings to it. Some people might think you're just feeling sad or down for a few minutes, but there actually is something called depression, right?
Yes, this is not just sad. There's situational. So sad is one thing. Depression, the clinical term of using depression as defined by the DSM, is much stronger than that. It's for a longer period of time. So if you've been sad for, say, every day, there's like a whole bunch of different things. You have to hit at least 5 of them during a 2-week period to be actually considered depressed. It depends on the levels of it. So it depends how depressed you've been feeling. It should be for every day. Might be a marked diminished interest or pleasure at all, significant weight loss or weight gain, insomnia or hypersomnia nearly every day, agitation, fatigue, feeling of worthlessness, diminished ability to concentrate, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide or suicidal ideation. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of deal with for depression, and then there's also major depression. So there's a lot of different kind of levels of sadness, or you could even have a situational depression, which happens because of a certain event.
So it's not binary. It's not black and white. There's several shades of gray and a lot of nuance. It's sort of a very, amorphous kind of term.
Right. If you're feeling sad for a very long time and it doesn't seem to, it might go up and down. It would depend on that. We're not dealing with if you're bipolar, which would be that you have manic episodes, which you're really happy, and then really sad episodes when you're really, really down. But there is a checklist that you can use, and it's simple. It's 15 questions, and it will let you know if you might indeed, perhaps, be dealing with a depressed episode or have actual depression or major depression.
This might be a dumb question, but that's my job, to ask the dumb questions. Are there different forms of depression? Like, are there some forms of depression that are chemical and physiological, and some forms that are psychological and sort of event based?
There definitely might be. We don't actually go in and splice in the brain, so we can't take a look at, but depending on what works and what doesn't work and what might have caused it or not, yes, we believe that there might be. But again, you have to kind of go in to actually take a look at the physiology and or get a CRT. Like it's not as easy as cut
It's
and dry
complicated.
that it could be.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we have like a basic idea of depression, how do you start to tell? Like you said, there's a set of questions you can ask.
Well, I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually go through with everyone because there's only 15 questions.
Okay.
This is the Burns Depression Checklist. It's an easy one to use. It's used quite a lot because it's quick. And all you have to do is answer for each question, not at all, somewhat, moderately, a lot, or extremely. So, and it's, 0 is none at all, to extremely, which is 4. So you just answer that, and it will kind of tell you what level of depression that you may so have.
So again, not a simple yes or no. You've got a gradation.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through I'm not going to go through all of them. There's some that I'm going to do the short one.
Awesome.
Because actually I have the longer one with me right now, but I'm going to take a look at this one and just enlarge it a little bit for myself.
Is it naive to think that if you're taking one of these questions, it might be a good sign that you should take this questionnaire?
If you're actually looking up the questionnaire, that's probably the first sign.
Okay.
Okay, so the questions go like this. Sadness. Have you been feeling sad or down in the dumps? And you would answer 0 for not at all, moderately 2, 3 a lot, 4 extremely. Discouragement. Does the future look hopeless? Self-esteem. Do you feel worthless or do you think of yourself as a failure? Inferiority. Do you feel inadequate or inferior to others? And say guilt. Do you feel critical and blame yourself for everything? Then there's indecisive. Do you have trouble making up your mind about things? So those are the type of questions that it asks you. And then depending on how often, and we'll have the questionnaire, or I think that we'll actually do a link because it's better than the questionnaire. So you can take a look and answer it. So if you answered even to those ones, most of them were high, so a lot or extremely, take the rest of the test and take a look, because out of all of the things to deal with, depression is exceptionally hard. You can't, like people will say, oh, just smile and look at the good things, or smell a flower.
And then you want to punch them.
That doesn't really, it doesn't really work. Oh, are we off the air?
No, we're on.
Okay, sorry, I still see it off. So you would just take a look and you could search up in Google the Burns Depression Checklist.
Yeah, so but that's a common misconception. Like you might be around, or you might have, if you are depressed, you might have people around you, or if you're around someone who's depressed, you might wonder, like, why don't the normal things like cheer them up? Why don't they just go have a chocolate sundae? Why don't they just go to a funny movie? Why don't they just go have promiscuous sex? I mean, why the normal things that you would think make
it's actually
cheer
one
people
of the
up.
questions. If you're having promiscuous sex, it might be a link that you're depressed.
But no, that's not intuitive to people. They think that there's all these range of activities that make people happy, and why don't you just do one of those things?
Right. I have to say, I had one day that I could say majorly, I'd say moderately depressed for just one day. It was very, very strange. And even though I study this, even though I see people that are depressed, I didn't really appreciate how horrific and deep and dark it so might be. And it was just like my entire world was filtered by a crap. I can't even say it was like a dark filter. It was like my whole life was filtered by crap. Everything that I saw, felt, or thought was kind of filtered by crap. So it made everything be on the TV, and I'm puppy. It was as if I was looking through a tunnel, or I was in the bottom of a well, and when I looked up, there was just more darkness. There was no light at the end of the tunnel, and it was very scary. And that was one day. So the wonderful thing, it's a gift for myself as a therapist, was that I thought I really respected the strength and the horror of having to live with that kind of a thought every single day.
Yeah, we don't know what causes this, right? Is that part of the frustration, that we don't understand the process?
We don't, and because it's something that has to do with, your mind, either the things that are happening to you, but because it's also chemical in some way, shape, or form, we think that we feel guilty because we should be able to change it. We should be able to be positive. Whereas, say my thyroid that stops working, no one feels guilty that your thyroid stops working, but say that
Or that you break a leg or something.
Or you break a leg, no one's going to blame you and say, well, why don't you just walk on it, But if for some reason you're feeling depressed and there's maybe a chemical reaction that is not working well in your mind, people feel guilty as though they should be doing something different to change it. They feel good. They feel bad about that. And that's unfair. It's unjust. Like if my thyroid isn't working, I'll take medication for that.
Or if you have a heart condition, you'll take medication for it. But there's like a stigma attached to depression. And people kind of think that they shouldn't talk about it because they'll depress other people.
Yes, exactly. Exactly that. And it's not right.
Or you have the equal and the opposite reaction where someone's talking about it and you start to feel awkward and uncomfortable and start making stupid jokes because you think you'll be the one to cheer them up.
Right, which is nice. But again, it's also when you're feeling depressed, it's horrible to have to always deal with having to put on a happy face and fake it. That takes up a lot of energy when you're feeling depressed. Doing anything takes up a lot of energy. Getting up out of bed and making your way through the world is exceptionally exhausting. So, if you're around people, there's some things to do, but it's definitely something that's really difficult. So the first thing to take a look at is, do you have your family history? Are there a lot of people in your family that are also depressed? The funny thing is that for anxiety, it hits people that are more type A, hardworking, perfectionistic, hard on themselves. Depression hits both sets pretty much equally, more type A just because they might have more things that are putting pressure on them.
So again, me being dumb question guy, how do you sort this? I mean, like there's also phases, like we all know about the moody teenager who starts dressing in black and everything sucks and the world is going to blow up. How do we sort that, like phases or, just the typical peaks and valleys of life from an actual depressive cycle?
It would depend on how long it lasts and how deep it is. If you are suffering for, 2 weeks straight or a month or two straight, that's probably a sign that you should be taking a look a little bit more at it. If there's not a serious reason, of course, if there was a death or you lost your job.
I was going to ask you, like, if you lost your job, you broke up with somebody, there was a death in the family, is that separate from depression?
It would be a situational depression, but it's much more, interesting to it's much more understandable to go through that. So
also socially acceptable.
Yes, socially acceptable. People will be more sympathetic, which is the nice part. If a depression just hits you for no reason, there is no cause to it. That's always something, and it's not, like men and women. Men also go through hormonal changes and life changes. Women are more known for it, but that also could be the reason. But if it doesn't go away after a good amount of time and you're suffering, that's when you should kind of take a look at, we should always take a look at doing something if you feel bad for a couple of days in a row. But you should take a look at what you do. Like
you said, if you have a physical ailment, like if you're bleeding, you will get a bandage. If you are sick, you will get medicine. But if you're depressed, people often just think it's, they've just got to live through it.
Yes, and that's where people that are type A think that they're, superheroes and they can do everything all on their own and they don't have to worry, and they put more and more on their plate, try to do just as much, are probably keeping on a very happy face, not getting the support that they so may need. And they'll take on more and more, and it will get worse.
So now that we've classified it, we kind of know, well, I don't really know it, we have a better idea what it is and whether we're going through it or not. What are some of the things that you can do?
Well, the first things that you should do is probably take a look at the first 3 of our podcasts because we deal with the things that will help. So I would say exercise is one of the most important things. It kicks out your endorphins. It helps you get active, and it's hard to do, but it will actually probably make you feel much better during that time.
Since we're Zen and tech, we're not just here for your Zen, we're here for your tech. There's lots of great technology that can help you with this. I mean, there's things like the Fitbit, like the Jawbone Up, which is, soon to be re-released.
What exactly is that?
So these are devices that you wear. The Jawbone Up is a bracelet. The Fitbit is a little clip, and you wear it, and it sort of monitors to make sure that you're exercising. It will even monitor your sleep cycles. There's apps that go with them so that you can enter your nutritional information. So I mean, you mentioned the exercise, the sleeping, the eating right. These can't replace any of those, but they can help. They can help you set. Accountability, I think, is important. Like, even self-accountability. If you know that you're being tracked or that you're entering things, the same thing when you always talk about journaling, right? When you have that sort of something to measure it against, I think you're more likely to persist with it.
Exactly. And there you can get some really, like, if you will, jog and or listen to music, or if you have an elliptical machine at home, or even, some weights, just to kind of get out, make your body feel good, and burn off some things will help. But cardio is what I'm aimed at more than anything else. There's also eating well. Eating healthy will help. If you're eating foods that make you feel tired, probably not a great thing to be having at the time. So you should take a look at that.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of apps also that you can use. So, for example, if you want to set yourself a short-term goal, there's like 100 push-up apps or 100 sit-up apps. There's the PX90 app. There's all sorts of apps that you can use just to. There's apps with white noise, and you can pick what you want to work on, and you'll find lots of really good apps to help you with that.
Exactly. And also, you should make sure that you're sleeping, because if you are lacking, okay, you have to make sure that you're sleeping enough. Rats, you don't let them sleep. They actually just die. They keel over and die. We don't die, but we definitely get paranoid. We'll get more depressed. Our mind will kind of become disjointed. It is exceptionally important to make sure that you're sleeping enough.
Absolutely. So once you've kind of settled on the basics, Georgia, is there any time when you should actually go see somebody, when the stuff that you do may not be enough?
Okay, so say that you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're exercising, you're doing your deep breaths, you're laughing, spending time with positive people, you're not being complacent.
I'm sorry, positive people?
You should try to hang around with other people that are positive and accepting of you as you are, so you don't have to hold a mask all the time. Okay. If you're around a lot of negative, difficult, angry people, probably not great when you're depressed. Misery does not actually like company. So
is watching like a funny movie or going to hang out with people who give you a good time, is that also something that you should be considering?
You definitely should. It's a wonderful release for you. If you're in an actual depression, is it going to change it? It might, because you're activating a center that might need help in firing, a pathway that needs to be strengthened. So try it out.
And also, there's other things besides just tech gadgets. I mean, there's full spectrum light. Some people get seasonally depressed, right, because of lack of sunlight.
Exactly. So it's a wonderful thing. That actually might make the difference for you. If you find that you only get depressed when the change in the light time, or that it's cold out, so you spend more time at home, it's good to have one. I would say just buy one for your house anyways, because it can't hurt. And depression hits many more people, and they don't speak about it. So everyone should have probably one of these lights that you can just get them at any health food store. They probably will sell them, or just the bulbs that you can put in, and they look exactly the same, and they just make you feel a little bit better. So it's never something, everyone should have one in a place where you'll get it for a few hours a day.
All right. So sorry, you were saying there are points when you want to check your doctor, because there might be other factors, right? Like there could be some sort of condition that you have that's contributing towards your feelings.
Yes. Check, if you're not eating well, make sure that you're getting your vitamins, but if not, check your thyroid and your iron. Interestingly enough, my thyroid has completely kicked out, and my iron, I would kill a vampire. My iron is so low. So check those out as well.
Yeah. So basically be proactive about it. You don't have to settle for feeling that way. If you're feeling poorly, it's not something you have to just live with.
Yes. And it's something that you deserve to be happy. We have, unless you're Buddhist, we have one shot on this planet. If there's something that will make you feel better, it's so well worth it. It's not giving up. It's being good to yourself. If you had a friend, always check with this. If you're being mean to yourself, if you had a friend and they came to you with the same symptoms, what would you say to them?
Yeah.
There's also some herbal things that you can take a look at that might help. You can go to your health food store and you can ask them and they'll give you some type of supplements. Always look them up, because just because it's from a health food store and it's all natural, does not mean that
cyanide is 100% natural. There's definitely a barometer for these things.
There's definitely something that you could take a look at, but there are some things that might, if you're having a major depression and you're having very negative thoughts and or suicidal, skip the medicine and go seek out a professional. Or if you've had it for a long time and you're trying other things, go seek someone that can help you. Sometimes the support and the help and everything else is also wonderful. And if none of those work, try medicine, like an actual pharmaceutical grade medicine.
Yeah.
Because why not? If it was your thyroid, if it was your heart, try it out. I know every time I talk to a patient, and my client doesn't want usually to take the medicine, but if we've tried everything else, it's so worth it for your quality of life. And the SSRI medications, which I'll talk a little bit about on another show, just because it is a little bit of a long discussion, are wonderful, and they have very few side effects now. There's some really great meds that are out there, and some of them I absolutely adore. Some of them I'm not as thrilled about, just because they're a little bit more difficult to get on, because getting on them does cause a little bit of side effects if they're effective, but they work well.
Nice. And we have actually just started a new health and fitness and general well-being forum on imore.com. You can go to forums.imore.com, and we'll have a lot of these episodes, and we'll start discussions based on a lot of these episodes, and sometimes just talking about it because everyone always feels like they're alone and they're the only one, and often just talking about it is a huge step forward.
Definitely, and especially if you're feeling depressed, it's nice to know that you're not the only one.
Absolutely.
But SSRI meds, they will work out also really well. So think about it and talk to other people. And you can also email us.
Nice. Georgia, where can we find out more about you?
You can find me on Twitter at GeorgiaTIPB, and you can also find me on the website, ZenandTech.tv.
Cool. And you can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find me at ZenandTech.tv with Georgia, or at imore.com also with Georgia, or at mobilenations.com. Georgia, once again, this was a really sort of a much more complex but really important show. Thank you for sharing about this.
You're welcome.
You can find all of us at Zen and Tech on Twitter. You can email us at podcast@zenandtech.tv. And if this is something you're going through, we'd love to hear about it. We get a lot of comments, but if you have questions too, feel free to send them in. You can also leave a comment on the show when it goes live, or in that new forum I told you about, forums.imore.com. We're here every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can also find all our shows, mobilenations.com/shows, including Zen and Tech, Super Functional, iPhone and iPad Live, Android Central. We've got something for everybody. If you haven't already, please go to iTunes. Please subscribe to the show. Please leave a rating. It means a lot to us. And thank you, everyone, especially the people who join us in the live chat room. You guys really are the best audience in mobile, and we love having you here.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm getting some food.
All right, you go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.